Thank you and good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the Town of Petawawa for April the 19th, 2021. Welcome to our special guests that are with us this evening. I'll call this meeting to order and I'll ask those who are with us if they would bow their heads for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda, please. Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Carmody. All in favor? It is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any member wish to disclose any pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this evening? Having seen none. Approval of the minutes of council meeting April the 6th, 2021 that have been circulated. Any errors or omissions to those minutes? If not, I see none, then I need a motion, please. Deputy Mayor Sarvis, second by Councillor Sabran. No discussion, all in favor? It is carried. The first order of the evening is a presentation, the Police Services Board for the year 2019-2020 year-end report is going to be given to us by the chair of the board, Councillor James Carmody, followed by a presentation by Inspector Stefan Neufeld and a presentation by Constable Sean Peaver. But to begin with, the floor is yours, Councillor, for your presentation. I think you have some guests here this evening as part of your board. Over to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Yes, with us tonight, we have Sharon Dainty, who is the provincial appointee to the Petawawa Police Services Board. And unfortunately, our municipal appointee could not be with us this evening for personal reasons, but Miss Mariana Church is the municipal appointee. And as well, with us tonight, we have Inspector Stefan Neufeld, who is the detachment commander at Upper Ottawa Valley OPP, and Constable Sean Peaver, who is the person who distributes all of the media releases.
Well, welcome to all three. Welcome to all three. Nice to see you, Sharon. Thank you for being here, and to the two OPP officers, one OPP and the inspector who's with us this evening. Look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, and back to you, Councillor Carmody.
Okay, our order of business this evening is the year-end police report, or Police Services Board report. And this will be for the years 19 and 20, because as you may recall, last year we were in the beginning stages of this pandemic, and a lot of things that should have happened on schedule didn't last year. So this is a summary of the past couple of years. And at this point, I will go ahead and share my screen, which I've never done before. So we're going to see how this works. Host disabled participant from screen sharing. Well, thank you, Dan.
I just so you'll know, I have half the screen here.
Okay, can everybody see that?
I can only see half the screen.
Okay, well, hang on.
You'll just need to maximize your side.
No, that is maximized, and there's that 5. So on my screen, it's full. And are you seeing like an email on the other half of the screen or something?
Yes,
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have your screen on split view?
No.
Split screen?
No, I do not. I got rid of that email. Let's see if this makes any difference. Is that any better?
Nope,
No?
not for me.
Not
Sorry.
for me.
Dan,
Counselor, what I'll do is I'll stop sharing and then I'll try and then we'll start to share again. Sorry, Don,
I was just going to say, I think it's your screen.
that we're
That's showing.
seeing. Okay. Let us try again, folks. It's only been a year since we started doing this.
Okay,
Okay, so what are we doing here, Dan? I'm sharing my screen now.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There's something different that I didn't see the last time.
there you go.
Does that look better?
Yeah, I've got the whole screen there.
Yep, we're good, James.
Okay, but is it in screen view? I hit F5 and I didn't see. Like, are you seeing the notes and everything?
I've got the full picture here.
Okay.
We're seeing the notes. I think you just need to go to start slideshow and that should work.
Yeah, that's the F5 and I'm not, unless maybe the function keys don't work. Where's the start slideshow?
Yeah, just go up, James, up and to your right. And then from beginning.
Okay, there we go. Everybody good now?
Yep,
We're good.
All right, okay. So this is our 19 and 20 year-end report. So policing in Petawawa. So the Petawawa Police Services Board membership. For the council term 2018 to 22, Petawawa Police Service Board members are myself as the chair, Maria Moreno Church as the community appointee, and Sharon Dainty as the provincial appointee. And Sharon's appointment expires on March. You know what? I can't see that part of the screen because there's pictures there, but
yep, 2023.
2023. So the responsibilities of police services boards. So the legislative mandate and responsibilities of police services boards are set out in the Ontario Police Services Act, RSO 1990, and regulations made under it, including the adequacy and effectiveness of police services regulations and the members of police services boards code of conduct, Reg 42197. So the Police Services Act requires municipalities to provide adequate and effective policing services. Municipalities may maintain a police service cooperatively with each other for the provision of police services or contract with the OPP for policing. A municipality that has its own police services board or its own police service is known as a Section 31 board. So that would be similar to Deep River is a Section 31. Pembroke used to be before they started contracting with the OPP. Ottawa's a Section 31 board. Most of the big municipalities are Section 31 boards. So in Petawawa, we're a Section 10 board. And when I say section, that refers to the section of the Police Services Act, which addresses all of the statutes referring to that type of board. So it's the actual section of the Police Services Act. So in Petawawa, we're a Section 10 board, and which means that we have a contract with the OPP for the provision of police services. So a Section 10 board shall participate in the selection of the detachment commander of the detachment to the municipality. So in other words, you get to participate in the hiring process whenever your municipality is, or your area is getting a new detachment commander, you're integrally involved in the selection of the detachment commander. You also generally determine the objectives and priorities for police services after consultation with the detachment commander. And that's the word generally there is the key word in that statement, because the provision of police services does not really change from municipality to municipality. And police services boards don't really have the authority to change what policing is all about. Like the basic mission of any police service is the prevention of crime and disorder. And the ability of a police service to achieve the prevention of crime and disorder is really dependent on the amount of public cooperation that that police service is able to achieve. So in other words, the consent of the police. And the degree to which the police have consent of the people who are being policed is proportional to the amount of force the police use in the execution of their duties. So the goals of a police force are, as I said, the prevention of crime and disorder, and the extent to which a police force is successful in achieving their goals is determined not by any visibility method or metric, not by the amount of police activity that you see in a community, but the degree to which they're successful is determined by the absence of crime and disorder in a community. So given that Petawawa is one of the safest communities in Canada in which to live, I would say that the police services that we receive in Petawawa are second to none. So the board and the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP 7-goal joint action plan for 2019 and 2020 were to, one, support the creation and implementation of an Upper Ottawa Valley OPP detachment area community safety and well-being plan. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Our community safety and well-being plan is in the works at the moment, and we're working on it. We're working towards completion of this plan by the July 1st deadline. And we've hired a facilitator to help us get this plan in the works and ready for submission. And that facilitator's name is Patrick Finnegan, who is a retired inspector in the OPP. The second goal that we have here is to foster the concept of community partnership and ownership in maintaining a safe community. So in the pictures that you see on this slide, you see the inspector and one of the constables, and I believe that's Maria in the vehicle.
Mhm.
And this is the Operation Red Nose mascot that you see. You can tell by the big red nose that the guy has. And this was a program that we ran in conjunction with, that the Rotary Club ran. And a few of us volunteered it, and it was Operation Red Nose was a ride provision service where people who were out at parties and drinking could call, and we would dispatch a team. The team would go to the establishment where the party was happening and drive the people home in their vehicle. So it was just a program to reduce impaired driving. And in the other picture, you see Constable Peaver and myself. We were in the torch run, and that picture was taken at Our Lady of Sorrows. And I recall that day the Inspector Neufeld was participated in the torch run as well. So the third goal we had was the establishment of active educational programs consistent with our vision, including public awareness campaigns regarding false 911 calls, excuse me, the legalization of recreational marijuana, distracted driving, seatbelt use, speeding, and impaired driving. Now, I'll let the inspector address certainly the 911 calls, and a lot of those I'm sure he'll touch on. But our fourth goal was to serve as a partner in the safety support network for children, youth, families, and seniors. And goal number 5 was the institution of effective protocols which address violence against women. 6 was leverage of technology to create operational efficiencies and expand the Petawawa Police Services Board social media presence. So we've been fairly active on social media. And goal number 7 was to ensure appropriate and professional interactions and communications, which has always been met. So accidental 911 calls. We've discussed this a few times at council. And in 2020, the OPP updated its 911 call handling workflow to allow its emergency communicators more discretion to divert certain 911 calls and ensure more frontline OPP officers are available for actual emergencies. So in 18, the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP responded to 231 calls for service for 911 pocket dials and dropped calls. And estimated cost to the town was, can everybody see that figure?
Yep.
Because I can't. Whatever it was, 24,000?
24,000.
And in 2019, responded to 455 calls, and estimated cost was, if I recall, it was 54,000?
57,700.
57,700.
Mhm.
And after the institution of the new 911 policies, the number of 911 calls dropped to 60, which is a huge savings for the town in terms of calls for service. So the Petawawa Police Services Board Policy Manual. So we maintain, like any group, we maintain a policy manual, and so we adopted a new social media policy. We amended our major policing events policy, and in 2020 we adopted an emergency electronic meeting policy in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our community safety and well-being plan. An Upper Ottawa Valley OPP detachment area-wide community safety and well-being plan is being prepared on behalf of the town of Petawawa, city of Pembroke, Township of Laurentian Valley, Town of Laurentian Hills, Township of Head, Clara, and Mariah, and a portion of the Township of Whitewater Region and a portion of North Oklahoma Wilberforce Township. So the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan continued. Patrick Finnegan of Upstream Communications has been hired to help create the plan. And Patrick is, as I mentioned, a retired OPP officer. So we've had several virtual meetings to date, and the plan is in the works. So this circle you see here, I'm sure you've seen it before in reference to community safety and well-being plans. And what you've got is the red dot in the middle is what you want to compress, so that you want that dot to be as small as possible. The fewer incidents that you actually have to respond to, the better. So that your incident response is the provision of emergency services. So your police, your fire department, and ambulance, basically anything with a siren on it, you want that to be lessened, and the outer circles to get a little larger. And the way that's done is through social development, prevention, and risk intervention. So the OPP detachment police services boards. So there's been quite a bit of discussion about this lately. So the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 calls for the dissolution of Section 10 boards and their replacement with detachment boards. Detachment boards are to be made up of representatives from every community that a detachment area covers. The intent of this is to provide better civilian oversight of the police. Currently, municipalities that do not have a contract with the OPP, as do Section 10 boards, have limited or no governance options. So the municipalities that do not have a contract with the OPP still receive policing services. And they receive those services under Section 5 of the Police Services Act. So these would be communities like Laurentian Hills or Laurentian Valley, Whitewater, other communities in our area, North Algoma, Wilberforce, etc. So when it comes to billing these municipalities for the police services that they receive, they're billed much the same as a Section 10 board would be. The same formula applies, and the calls for service that they receive is used in the creation of that bill as well. What they don't have is a police services board. So they have very little in terms of governance. They're members of a community policing, CPAC, Community Policing Advisory Committee. And advisory being the key word there. They can advise, but they have no authority. Whereas police services boards are a little different. They fall under a different section of the Act, and they actually have legislative authority to perform certain functions, such as we discussed earlier, whereas Section 5 boards do not. So the creation of detachment-wide police services boards will bring everybody under the same tent. So all communities in the detachment area will all sit at the same table and will all form one big police services board. And when I say big, that still remains a bit of a question mark, just how big this is going to be. Because in our case, there's going to be many municipalities, some big, some small, and it's still a little uncertain just exactly what the composition of that board is going to look like. We're in the process of hammering that out now. And this has got to be submitted by June 7th. So we'll keep you abreast of what's happening in that department at future meetings when it becomes more clear just exactly what is going to come to be in that department, or in that area, I should say. So the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, Zone 2. So I and Maria attended a Zone 2 meeting in Picton in September 2019. And so the keynote speaker there was speaking about criminal motorcycle gang activity in Ontario. And I can assure you that was a very interesting thing to attend. Myself and again Maria attended Zone 2 Section 10 Police Services Board training in Carleton Place in October of 19. And we also attended an OPP governance summit regarding OPP detachment boards in Toronto just before the pandemic. It was January 31st, 2020, I believe. Back in the day when you had a room chock full of people and there wasn't a mask in sight and everybody was shaking hands. So in 2019, we had a booth at the Petawawa Spring Showcase. And we took the opportunity at that event to implement a very good idea that Inspector Neufeld had, and that was to petition residents as to what they thought the biggest safety concerns in their community were. And what we did was we came up with a list of, I think there were a dozen or 15 potential topics that might concern people, and we asked them to just rank them. What's your first, second, and third topmost concern? And the biggest concern that people had above all else by a mile was mental health. And support for seniors was the second highest, and economic development was the third biggest concern. As you can see by this this graph here, SFS is support for seniors, MH is mental health. You can see the blue line represents the first choice, and you can see that support for seniors and mental health were both up in the 50-60 area, like 56 and 60, compared to everything else, which didn't even come close. And some of these other ones were economic development and various other categories that we had. But that information we've submitted to Patrick Finnegan as part of our submission for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. And that was something that that we had been asked to do and to submit. And in our case, it was just a fortunate coincidence that we already had the information ready to go. So the Police Services Board, we've also created several public service announcements that we've aired on the radio. So stuff like August long weekend, safe boating messages, and Labor Day weekend, you know, watch out, school buses are back on the road. And last Christmas, we did a don't drink and drive series of radio messages. So we also have a Facebook page. So that was launched in March of 2019. And so the page is used to disseminate media releases as shared by Constable Peever and from the East Regional PP Facebook page and other relevant news that people in the community might be interested in. So you've probably all seen our billboard too. This is part of one of our goals is education for you know, recreational use of marijuana. So we put a board up, don't drive high. That board is right across the road from the Boston Pizza. I'm sure you've all seen it. And the Lock It Before You Pocket campaign, that was to help reduce accidental 911 calls. So if your phone is locked, it's less likely that you'll mistakenly call 911. So we've teamed up with MAD Canada as well to put a report impaired boating sign up. So you can see a nice picture of it there. Stand out from the crime, report. Stand out from the crowd, report crime. So these are various other campaigns. Oh, and that's the end of our presentation.
But thank you very much, Councillor Carmody. Just before we go to Inspector Neufeld, any questions on the Police Services Board presentation? I think it's clear when you see the presentation, a lot more active than we perhaps think. The partnerships that they generate are very, very important. And as James has alluded to, it's one of the safest communities in Canada. So hats off not only to the Police Services Board, but working in partnership with the provincial police, I think has made a huge difference in safety and awareness in our community. So the Police Services Board, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. Just by way of an update on the detachment-wide board, we did have a meeting with the inspector, had a chat with him about that. And from that, we're putting together all of the heads of council and CEOs, and we're having a meeting come Friday to go over with the province of Ontario some of their thoughts and get some questions answered as to how one of the questions you asked or posed was the size of the actual police services board itself. So keep posted as Councillor Carmody has said. We'll keep you in the loop going forward with that. But with that, if there's no questions, then we'll go to Inspector Neufeld. And again, here we go. I don't have anything here in terms of any PowerPoint presentation, Inspector.
But you can't see my screen.
No, Inspector, I cannot. I've got an email from the Deputy Clerk, presentation for Monday evening, but that's all I have.
Yeah, we're seeing your email.
How about now?
There you
There
go.
we go.
Yep, wonderful.
Yep.
There we go. We're up and running.
So my apologies, my first time screen sharing as well. And let's hope for the best that this works. So good evening and thank you very much for having me, your worship, members of council and guests. So it's my just in my message to the community. This has certainly been a year of unprecedented challenges for the OPP and certainly for members of every community across Canada and the world. Any success that we have had, and we have had some in 2020, that was not an OPP-led success. That was certainly a team effort with our officers, our civilians, our auxiliaries, our volunteers, and certainly all under the guidance of our Police Services Board. I'm certainly sitting in a very privileged position to be here as the detachment commander, and I hope to continue in that role for many years to come. So where does that success come from? The only way you're going to have any sort of success is you have to have a map, a roadmap. So what I've provided to the board members is certainly what continues to be our new 2020 to 2022 action plan, which discusses our vision, which always remains safe communities, a secure Ontario. We talk about our mission and our values. These are, they're new with every commissioner, but it always stays the same. Professionalism, pride in what you do, respect for the community, encompasses work in our communities. So when we talk about our healthy and resilient OPP, we talk about wellness. We 7 full-fledged psychologists and have them on staff now with the OPP. So before, when we had peer mentors, which are still there, and our critical incident group, these were ad hoc to members access to on OPP members through traumatic incidents. Trying to go one step further and being proactive in Upper Ottawa Valley, I reached out, rather than waiting for a traumatic incident to come forward, I reached out to the psychologist. I said, would there be any availability for you to just proactive? It's a check on them, on their personal wellness, and it allows them to provide them with certain tools this is from a psychologist, to help them identify any potential issues with their members before it even happens. So that is taking place right now. When we talk about our work, a responsive and evolving OPP, we're always looking at efficiencies. Councillor Carmody talked about efficiencies. We as well look for efficiencies. I mean, gone are the days where there was like a business as far as our patrols and our location times. When I talk about analytics, I say, well, if somebody says, oh, well, there's speeding complaints on the boulevard. Well, I don't just randomly send a car out. I need to know when the speeding is happening, when is it at its peak, to ensure that we can maximize our resources. We refer to that as when we looked at our, again, I'm a big fan of the phrase cash is king. When we look at our billing for the municipality, I noticed a billing irregularity as far as looking at efficiencies for calls for service that we were responding to on the Garrison property for whatever reason, and it was never picked up, that directly bill the Garrison. So when I called our counterparts in Aurelia to say this is appears to be an omission rather than an error, we'll say, we need to, for certain calls for service that are directly, have nothing to do with the town of Petawawa, but directly on the base, we need to be sending that bill to the base. And they agreed with the decision, and a look at the numbers, there was a significant amount of funds that was returned to the municipality, which I was very pleased to see. The last pillar, when we talk about our communities, building relationships. So again, a lot of the stuff Councillor Carmody has already talked about, because we are so engaged together, the police and the Police Services Board, community mobilization and engagement. So I won't totally get into that, but that represents a philosophy, almost a return to the grassroots of policing, of issues in the community are not necessarily a police problem, but they're a community problem. And what can we do to work collaboratively to address these issues? So that is very much alive and well in our community, and we work together with many agencies. Sean's going to talk about one of our great successes with our partnership with Renfrew County Mental Health very shortly. Well, getting into the numbers, when I say cash is king, this is what we responded to in 2020. Now, throughout 2020, I've made it abundantly clear to the Police Services Board that is, I mean, yes, these are the numbers, but keeping in mind that we are still in the midst of a very active pandemic, and these numbers are slightly skewed, and I'll explain what I mean by skewed. It's an accurate revenue versus 147 in 2019. 2020 did not suddenly, people didn't suddenly become safer drivers. People didn't suddenly, you know, put the phone down, so to speak, or buckle up. These are direct results of a lack of vehicles on the road as a result of people working from home. So I call them COVID stats, for lack of a better term. We saw a significant increase in domestics when COVID started. Not because suddenly people got more violent, but all of a sudden people started working from home more. Husbands and wives that only saw each other on weekends, all of a sudden they're seeing each other every day. And well, nerves and dramatically during COVID. Not because people started hitting their neighbors, but all of a sudden you only saw your neighbor on the weekend, and all of a sudden, geez, now I'm working from home every day. I didn't realize my neighbor played the drums. Now it's driving me crazy. Noise complaints went through the roof, not because people got more noisy. It's because people were home from work more, and that resulted in the spike of very weird calls for service that didn't normally need to spike. So I use the term, COVID. That's sort of. I'll jump ahead to our traffic numbers. We ran a very successful campaign called Operation Decibel, which I have run before, but motorcycles, but sometimes tweak a community. We ran, well, since I've been here in 2017, we've run every long weekend. We've run traffic campaigns, festive ride. We run traffic campaigns. Not a single response from anybody. We ran Operation Decibel targeting illegal mufflers, and the amount of emails that I got from the community, oh my God, thank God, about time, I can't believe it, I can't wait. All these complaints coming in about illegal mufflers, people saying that thank God you're doing this, because this noise is affecting my wellness. Like it was very strange what piques a community's interest, but that was a big traffic campaign. So your seatbelt misuse, aggressive driving, speeding, your distracted driving, the cell phones in the lately. However, it wasn't a significant drop. There were some, and then I don't want to compare other detachments, their big four output. When I look at other HTA, and you say, well, that's a 36% drop. Well, those are your driver's license, driving with an expired driver's license, your validation stickers, which the MTO said, well, you know what, don't worry about it. So we're not issuing those fines anymore. My concern, my biggest thing that I look at is when I look at traffic stops at the bottom column, yes, 6% decrease, 6.3. Well, isn't that right in line with the total number of drop in big four charges? A slight decrease in the patrol hours, negligible amount, 4%. The big drop, 67% at the bottom is court hours. Well, with COVID, the courts closed, and yeah, we had no more court time. So yeah, of course the numbers were decreased. So everything on the whole, considering we're in a pandemic, the numbers were not anything that I got too concerned about as far as the enforcement and the traffic safety. Every traffic campaign continued. The numbers were what they were, keeping in mind a lot less vehicles on the road, which would decrease our numbers. We will have to see what 2021 looks like. But as far as the enforcement side goes, we're still very much engaged in our traffic safety and keeping our roads and trails and waterways. Moved on from traffic. I just know sometimes that tweaks people. Seeing none, I'll move on to some of our policing challenges. Well, what can you say more than the pandemic and the officer safety and the mental wellness of both the community members and the officers? Not how many, unprecedented, the amount of times our officers were spit on when they were arresting somebody. I'd never seen the likes of it. Officers being spit on, which is a very personal thing. And then the offender screaming, "Oh, I have COVID." Have to enforce stay-at-home orders. Something as simple as returning children, which we would always get. That's nothing new for policing. That's been around since custody. Policing. I'm not. This is now a new to for. So here's a court order saying the dad or the mom is supposed to have the kids, but the other parent is saying, I fear for my children. I'm not sensitive. Call for service that our officers have never had to navigate before. And now that's becoming an everyday issue. Well, we all heard the defund the police cries from the US, and I don't want to compare our policing situation south of the border, because that's, you know, I don't even say that's apples and oranges. That's apples and a completely different animal. But detractors up here in Canada, and the defund the police cry was heard loud and clear. The number one thing that I would want every board member, any excessive force or ill-trained police officer is a direct result of defunding. If anything, you would want to increase the training. And I'm very proud to say our officers are extremely well trained. We receive not only our annual block training, but additional online through, we now have, I mentioned earlier, our foresight just that provides general assistance as far as mental wellness, very much cognizant of the need for additional training, not taking training away. And I'll leave it at that. The potential staffing crisis, we have not, I'm going to knock on some wood, we have not encountered that as far as a massive outbreak. That was certainly something that we were concerned about at the start and continue to. The reality is we could have a massive outbreak at any detachment anywhere in Ontario. The OPP certainly should that happen, and that continues today, is just COVID fatigue. And that's not just the police, that's everybody. And we're seeing it as people are getting more aggressive. There seems to be a bit more of a rallying in the lockdown season, some very legitimate, some maybe a little bit more selfish, but that is something that we are dealing with on a daily basis. So some of the, not everything was bad, and I will qualify that photo at the bottom, that was in January before masks were mandatory and social distancing. So I'll just, in 2020, the partnership with Brantford County Mental Health, I'm not going to steal Constable Peever's thunder, but that is something that I'm tremendously proud of, and that was something that I advised the hiring panel back when I was applying for this job, that was something I wanted to implement if I was successful in this role. So I'll let Sean talk about that. The project Unite. So when I talked about earlier about our domestics going up and saying, yes, you know, some of the reality is that is still, Unite is a UOB-led initiative, and that is to, that is the realization that during COVID, there are certainly many more women that might be even more isolated as a result of this. So this is to increase technology availability through cell phones and laptops to allow victims of domestic violence access to provide statements, to ask for help. This is done through a government grant, which is still in the works, but appears will be funded. So that's a very much a success that I'm very happy about. And the community safety well-being plan, Councillor Carmody talked about that. That is very much a project, and that again was our facilitator, retired Inspector Pat Finnegan, who he was hired, but that was a result of a grant, a successful grant application that allowed us to gain the funds to hire him and his company to draft this community well-being activities. I always like to include this slide because it is about up to this point, or the police can do better to achieve community safety. Fast forward to today, and we very much see with our community mobilization and engagement and the situation tables that we have, the working collaboratively with the community. Community policing is just that. It's what can the community do to make our community better, safer, protected. It's not something necessarily the police. I know the police always get called because at 3 in the morning, we have a very easy number to remember. That's not necessarily the right answer, and we're certainly cognizant of the role we have to play. However, in a lot of situations, there are far more valuable and important agencies, and I know Sean is going to talk about one of the mainstays of that is our increase in mental health calls and how we, as a yes, as a police agency, but certainly as a community, are working towards reducing that and providing these people that are in need the help that they can get. And of course, thank you very much for your continued support and our ongoing reaching out to me, and I certainly plan to keep it that way. So if there are not any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. If not, they can be emailed at a later date.
Thank you.
Or
Whoops. Okay, and
always be emailed to me. So thank you very much, Your Worship.
okay, thank you very much, Inspector. We were having just a little bit of trouble with the audio coming through, but nonetheless, I think we got the message loud and clear. Thank you, and thank you. You're saying thank you for our cooperation, but thank you to you and your team for the cooperation that is extended to us here in the town. Certainly, the issue of court is a major concern to the POA system that is administered through the county of Renfrew. The other thing that came loud and clear for your information and for members of council, that there is concern also with the number of justices of the peace. There's a number of them getting to the age 75 and are retiring, which leaves a bigger hole. And there's a huge backlog in terms of cases and that have to come before the court. So we're concerned about that at the county and concerned about the justices as well. Questions of the inspector's report? Just a word of thanks for interceding on our behalf for the garrison. It's greatly appreciated to see these being redirected to the proper place and not to the taxpayers in the town proper. But so we thank you for doing that as well. Thank you very much. If there are any questions from members of council. Having seen none, job well done then, Inspector. With that, I think we're now going to hear from Sean Peaver, Constable Peaver.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Appreciate that. So as the inspector alluded to, 2020 saw a partnership between the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP and Mental Health Services and the Pembroke Regional Hospital. So mobile crisis response team was created that gave our detachment access to 2 mental health professionals. And those 2 staff members of the PRH, are obviously, that's their forte. It's their field of profession. And we have them at our disposal, one per week. So they would alternate weeks, and they still do. So in 1 week we would be working with one, and then the next week it's the other one, and it alternates like that. I am the liaison officer for the mobile crisis response team, and the response team, it provides an opportunity for police and the mental health partners to work together when we're called to a mental health and or an addiction related crisis. So the goal in bringing the mobile crisis response team to that call is to de-escalate the situation with those professionals, reducing the unnecessary apprehensions to the hospital, unnecessary hospitalizations, and then just in general improving the quality of life of the person that's calling us, whether it's through symptom relief, on the spot, or very quick access to that mental health professional to speak to, and to provide them access to ongoing support to prevent future crises. So the mental health worker is available to us Monday to Friday. Generally, it's 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and we progressed, and we are still progressing to an integrated response to calls for service. So if there is a call for service in the community that fits the mandate of mental health and or addictions related, I would, obviously be monitoring the calls and then enabling the mobile crisis response team. They're not currently working in our office due to the pandemic, but it had started out when they were physically in our office, and I'm sure we'll get back to there again someday. But by now, still communicating by phone or through electronics and email and that sort of thing, we get out to those calls for service as much as we can that are unfolding. Now, we don't have them attend until the situation is safe to do so. Obviously, their safety is paramount, and they can't assist if they're not safe. So officers are responding first, making sure that the situation is safe, and then we can engage the mobile crisis team. I can bring them in into the situation, and then they start their work with whoever we're dealing with. So if it's a call for service where there's been an attempt of suicide that's overt and has been made, we're not bringing the mobile crisis response team in that time. In that situation, we need to apprehend the person and then take them to the hospital. But the mobile crisis team can attend the hospital with us and facilitate the transition between transferring that person from being apprehended by the police to the care of the hospital and the assessments that would take place in the emergency department, and so on and so forth from there. So I'll get into some examples later of how the mobile crisis team has really helped us with that transition from the police care to hospital care. The mental health crisis team, they're also available to any officer here who may be dealing with a call for service or an investigation, but they believe that there's a mental health component to it. So we have them to, bounce ideas off of, get their perspective, and their professional opinion on what we're dealing with and how they could possibly help. So when we're not actively going to calls, there's well-being checks that I go out with the mobile crisis team and perform those well-being checks, whether it's someone that we maybe dealt with recently and we want to follow up with them to make sure that they're getting connected to supports and that they're staying connected to supports. Sometimes it takes a few different referrals and time for the person to engage. So we follow up and we make sure that they get that support and it's ongoing. There's medication compliance checks. In some cases, maybe they may have difficulty in filling prescriptions for whatever medication they need. They may not have a family doctor. There's all sorts of difficulties that can be encountered, and the mobile crisis team can help walk them through those situations. We deal with folks that, in addition to mental health crisis or mental health issues that they have, they may not have enough food in the fridge, and it's an unfortunate and a sad thing, but that's something that we encounter, and the mobile crisis team has access, to support for whether it's gift cards for groceries, for accessing food at the food bank for them and delivering it if they don't have their own transportation. It's not just about one thing, it's about the whole picture and making sure, it's hard to be well if you don't have, a proper meal and food in your fridge, and help in different ways like that. So they're there to help for those reasons as well. We have obviously a pandemic going on right now, and people have a hard enough time navigating the mental health system and the health system, in regular times, but throw the difficulties of that they're experiencing, whether it be paranoia, stress, anxiety, depression, throw the difficulties of navigating a healthcare system that's are they open? Do they just take phone calls? Is it only by Zoom? How do you access a doctor or psychiatrist or psychologist in all this, right? So the mobile crisis team, those our workers or the staff members have been amazing, and they know how to navigate and help the clients get through that system, and get them into where they need to go, or determine the best course of action with the client. So I should say the services are voluntary. No one's being forced with this, but I can tell you from firsthand experiences on many calls, people are touched and very accepting. It's very rare that we get a refusal, and people are genuinely happy, and shocked, maybe in a good way, I guess you could say, that the police and the mobile crisis response team is showing up after, and the comments are, well, we didn't know anyone cared or thought about us, or after the police left, then we thought that was it. And it's just a better way to serve people who need help. So we've also encountered clients that have moved from out of province, and actually even one that had come to Canada from out of country, and again needed help, needed assistance, didn't have an OHIP card. Yeah, they're new to the province, new to the country, not familiar with the system. And again, this is where the mobile crisis team is done some amazing work, where as a police officer, I may not necessarily know all the ins and outs, but they're healthcare professionals, and that's what they do. So we've seen great response, and just a wonderful ability for them to help those in need do that. And it's something that I never thought, what would we be dealing with someone from out of country or even out of province? It's the things that you don't think of where they can help make that happen for them. So we don't want anyone to fall through the cracks, or when someone gets discharged from the hospital, we try to follow up with them, that whether it's been maybe a police apprehension where they've had to stay in hospitals for a certain amount of time, and then follow up with them as soon as we can after they're discharged, in order to check in to see how they're doing. Are they connected? Can we help them get connected, right? It's just so important. With regards to some success stories, I just wanted to go over a few. We do have a number of callers, I guess you could say, that are repeat or prolific callers, that we recognize that have some mental health issues, and there's community supports and stakeholders that are also engaged with a lot of the folks that we're helping. In some cases, those stakeholders may not be aware completely of the whole picture, or what's going on, maybe after hours with, calls to police or police involvement. So there was one client in 2020. So between April and August, there was 68 calls for service, and getting the community agencies aware and more engaged with the person for help, and then having the mobile crisis team get them in to see a psychiatrist for the very first time in their life. And they were someone that was in that 50 to 60 year age bracket, that had just never had the opportunity, or had someone assist them and help them through that. So we saw that 68 calls for service between April and August shrink from that 68 calls to 9 calls for service between September and December. And you see the wellness it creates, and it's a very rewarding, I can say, as a police officer, to see someone get help and get well and not have to call the police. Because imagine having to call the police, almost 70 times in 3 or 4 months. It speaks to that person being afraid or anxious, or some sort of turmoil in their life where that we try to help them with. So another one, we had 18 calls for service between June and October with a person, not the highest rate, but 7 of those were overdose related. There was CPR performed on a number of occasions. There was naloxone use for opioid overdose on an occasion. So, but 7, one overdose related call is too many, and there was 7 in that time frame. So I also take cases each month to the Renfrew County Situation Table, which is almost 20 different stakeholders and service providers in the community that try to come together and examine cases of that are very serious, and to see what intervention can be had or help can be provided. So between the situation table and the mobile crisis team being engaged, those 18 calls and 7 overdoses between June and October last year went to 1 call for service between October and December, and that 1 call was not overdose related. So big success there. We're literally dealing with getting them help, and it's a life or death situation when they're in addicted to such opioids. There was another situation where a full-time mental health worker who's dedicated to a client reached out to the mobile crisis team. They know their coworkers, and the full-time mental health workers, we don't maybe have a dialogue on an everyday basis like I do with the mobile crisis team, but the full-time worker spoke to the mobile crisis team staff member that we're in touch with, or I'm in touch with constantly, and said, this person just got out of hospital and we're concerned they're going home. They have a possession acquisition firearms license. They have firearms in the home, and although they've been discharged from hospital, there's still things that are concerning. And they said, this is a public safety concern, and what should we do about it? So, that went from the mobile crisis team to me, and from that worker, and then, immediately right to the day shift sergeant with the frontline patrol officers. We spoke to the full-time worker, got the grounds, and then went in under public safety and seized the firearms, seized the possession acquisition license. And it's not like it's seized forever. It's in the matter of public safety. There'll be a judicial process and a hearing on what's going to happen from there. But it's just that communication that we have now that's so vital, where possibly some sort of tragedy can be averted with that communication and securing firearms, all in a matter of public safety. So there was also one more I'll speak of. There was a well-being check that I performed in December with the mobile crisis team, and again, it was I don't know if any of the calls are routine, but just to follow up with a client that we've been involved with. It was Christmas time. Sometimes it's harder on some than others. We did an unannounced door knock and spoke to the person, and they had planned to commit suicide that day, and were in the process of getting their affairs in order. And it just happened that we were able, at the right place at the right time, and we were able to avert that. Took the person to the hospital. Obviously, if they're at that point, we're going to take them to see a medical doctor at the hospital for treatment and assessment. But in that case, the mobile crisis team didn't assist us in averting the apprehension, because it was undeniable that it was something that we had to do for that person's safety. But the mobile crisis team facilitated a very quick turnaround at the hospital from us turning over from the person from our care to the hospital. It was 13 minutes, which is completely unheard of for us to negotiate the emergency department, get them into a room, get them triaged, and then for the police to be released by the hospital. So if the mobile crisis team isn't helping us out on the front end at the call, where we're not having to apprehend, they're helping us out on the back end at the hospital where we're able to get released from our duties at the hospital quicker and have that person taken into care or assessed at the hospital quicker. So it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's been a fantastic success. Last year in 2020, there was 98 different calls for service that the mobile crisis team assisted us on. That wasn't a full year. That's approximately 8 months. The program was paused in March whenever the pandemic hit, and there was certainly an operational need for staffing to go to the front line, and same on their part. So then it paused for approximately 4 months, but those stats and stories are from an eight month total run in 2020. So thus far in 2021, I just checked the stats before coming on to do the talk and presentation to the police service board here today, and we're at 76 already. So we're almost at in the first 3.5 months, we're already almost within spitting distance of where we were for all of 2020. So subject to any of your questions, I guess I should say there was one question when I presented out to the Petawawa Police Service Board earlier this year. Well, what happens when a call for service comes in outside, in the wee hours of the morning when the mobile crisis team isn't working? So in that case, the officers were obviously responding. We are trained in de-escalation and have some very excellent mental health training, not to the extent of a full-time mental health professional, but certainly our officers are very skilled in dealing with that. If the grounds are there and we, and it's a clear situation where we must apprehend, then we will. But if we don't apprehend, we certainly don't want to, if we don't have to, the officers will make sure the situation's stable and that the person's not a danger to themselves or anyone else. And then once the call is completed, once they've dealt with whatever the situation was, they'll make a referral to the mobile crisis team's hotline pager sort of thing and leave a message and leave an email to me usually. And then that next morning we can follow up with them. So, we go see them, and often it's sometimes better after the peak or the crisis has occurred that, we catch them in a calmer, more relaxed state where we can talk and have that conversation about where do we go from here, what help is available in the community, what resources are out there, and how the mobile crisis team can help them navigate. So that's what happens in the after hours sort of thing, and we follow up with them as soon and as much as we can afterwards. And it could be ongoing for weeks that we follow up and keep checking until they get connected and stay connected.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Constable. I must admit, I did not know that was a program that was being offered through the OPP, your crisis response team. I think it's fair to say that we all often think of OPP as officers in black and white cars driving up and down the highway and checking for seatbelts and speeding and all the other things. But it's obviously much more than that. It's more of a community situation, and you get to know who is in your community, and you get to know some of the challenges that are out there as far as people are concerned. It is a true partnership that you've created here. So this is a success story for sure that the OPP are creating and have created within our community, and it speaks to our quality of life that I did not know, quite frankly, and I'm not sure whether the rest of members of council were aware of the program that you're talking about. But hats off to the OPP for developing this program and saving the lives of people and bringing them back into the society. It's a wonderful program, and it can, when you see 76 calls so far this year, and we're just going into not even into May, there's obviously a huge need for that. And congratulations on the work that you're doing within the community to look after these folks that obviously need it. It was highlighted in the survey that you did at the showcase. The number one issue was mental health, and here you are with a program that is really quite remarkable when you think about it. So congratulations. We'll open it up for questions of Constable Peaver. Seeing that, sorry, Councillor Carmody. You're muted, James. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thank you very much for the presentation, Constable Peaver. You mentioned that you had one turnaround time in the ER process of 13 minutes. So just for a bit of context, what would a more typical turnaround time be? So how much are the officers saving?
The inspector may have the stats. I don't track those stats as part of my roles, but I would estimate somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours is not unusual. You know, if we're out in an hour, that's good. So maybe the inspector can speak to more specifics on that.
Thank you, Sean. The typical time, Councillor Carmody, hovers anywhere between an hour and 30 minutes and an hour and 39 minutes. Sean is absolutely right. 1 hour is a success. 13 minutes is unprecedented. That was the true partnership in action from start to finish. The transfer of care was absolutely amazing. Thank you very much, Sean, for presenting as well. Greatly appreciated. I don't want, and thank you very much, Your Worship, for your kind words. I don't want Sean's presentation, the single point there is tremendous success, but this is exactly what community mobilization is. This partnership, that is unprecedented in the history of policing. If you had asked any police officer 10 years ago, oh, you're going to have nurses and social workers working in a police station. Yeah, forget it. That is not going to happen. We're cops. This is a police station. Fast forward to 2021. This is the very essence of community mobilization engagement, collaborating, partnerships. That is how we are going to make our communities better. It's not these mental health calls is not something I always say, we're not going to charge our way out of these situations.
Thank you very much. That's why I was referring to traditionally you think of officers in cars, black and whites, but it's much, much more than that. And that's obvious with the presentation that Constable Peaver made and yourself, Inspector. But if there's no further questions, this has been very satisfying to listen to the partnerships and the openness that we enjoy with the OPP and the Police Services Board. My thanks go out to Sharon. Where are you, Sharon? There you are in the corner of my screen. Thank you, Sharon. And to Maria. She's not with us today. She's obviously busy somewhere. Thank you to James for the Police Services Board and the cooperation and the partnership that you have with Inspector Neufeld and the OPP in general, and to Inspector Neufeld through you to your officers and men and women that keep our community, as you say, one of the safest, if not the safest community in Canada. It doesn't come easy. It's a lot of hard work and working together in collaboration, such as what we've just heard with Constable Peaver. Thank you to you, Inspector. If you could pass that on to all of your officers, you're more than welcome at any time to come and talk to us about any initiatives that you think would be of benefit to make our community even better and safer. We're always interested in finding making the quality of life that we enjoy here even better and safer for all of our residents. So on behalf of Council and the Police Services Board, thank you all very much. Inspector, please pass that through to all your men and women of the OPP of the Upper Ottawa.
Do that. Thank you so much, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. With that, then we'll go back.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Night.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Sharon. Stay safe, everyone.
You too.
Okay, with that, then we'll go back to our agenda. The first item on the agenda is a bylaw 140321, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal. I need a motion for first and second reading, please. Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Mullins. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you.
Bylaw 140321 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 140321.
I need a mover and a second for third reading of bylaw 140321. Councillor Sabrin, Deputy Mayor Service. Any discussion, questions, or comments on the bylaw? Having seen none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It is carried. Thank you.
Bylaw 140321, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 140321.
We'll go to correspondence. CEO, is there any correspondence?
No correspondence, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Go to the minutes. Council Committee meeting of April the 12th, 2021. Need a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of that meeting of of April 19, 2021. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Carmody, seconded by Deputy Mayor Service. Any questions on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. Petawawa Business Advisory Network, March the 2nd, 2021. Motion to accept the minutes, please. For Councillor Sabran, seconded by Councillor Roots. Councillor Sabran, do you wish to speak to these?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, these are our meeting minutes from the 2nd of March, where we were able to have an in-person meeting, so that was really great. I have reported on these minutes before, but I would just like to highlight perhaps some things that I hadn't highlighted before, and that is under old business. Christine keeps the business community well informed with respect to any business grants and programs, and I believe there are about 6 such examples here. She sends out an e-blast newsletter to the businesses on a monthly basis and keeps them informed. And I have to say that we've certainly heard through our wellness checks that many of the business community have tried to access them and many have been successful. So that is a really good thing and certainly something that takes a lot of work. I'd also like to highlight the shoppetawawa.ca campaign. Christine had provided us with a sneak peek to the redesigned Shop Petawawa site, which now has a message board, story sharing, general information about the community, and a lot more visuals. It's really well done, and I certainly would encourage our local community to peruse that site, to see what's available here in the town of Petawawa to purchase, as well as our business community to use this site, because it certainly is an important tool, and that can be found at shoppetawawa.ca. And I guess finally, I would just like to identify that the service concierge offered a number of financial workshops in March, and they were very well received. And also the building department is putting forward a building permit workflow resource for our community so that they can see where the process begins and what the various milestones are throughout the process for obtaining a building permit, so that folks can prepare the necessary documentation that they have to prepare, and hopefully be a lot more well informed to be able to know where they're at, as well as what work is being done by the department. So certainly I would be happy to answer any questions should members have.
Thank you, Councillor. Questions of the sitting member? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, we'll go to, I believe, staff reports. PW 11 2021. David, please.
Yes, Your Worship. This is a report on the award of tender PW 08 2021, which is the reconstruction of Laura Street. This is the last little bit of street section within that area of the Herman Street, John Mary area that's left to be done. So it was tendered and advertised in the local papers and on the website. 9 firms did pick up packages, and we received complete bid packages by 5 firms on the tender closing on April 13th. And you can see the list of the individual contractors that put in bids. So the low bid was from JWK Contracting, and you can see attached tender report from JP2G, which is recommending, and so am I, that the award of PW08 2021, the reconstruction of Laura Street, to JWK Contracting in the amount of $244,674.98 plus HST. I just wanted to mention also that this was funded or budgeted for in the 2021 budget, it's well within the budget amount. I think the budget amount for this project was in around the $280,000 to $300,000 mark. So we actually did see some savings in this tender. I'd open up to any questions if there is any.
Sure. Just help me a little bit here. I'll ask the deputy clerk. I have it here PW11 2021, and yet on the motion here it's PW08 2021, which just, it's one and the same, I guess, but which one do you want?
No, the report number was PW11. Oh, did I do the resolution incorrect?
Yeah, the resolution is PW08 2021. Change that to 11.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right. Okay, open it up for questions before I ask for a motion, please. Councillor Sabra, and are you moving that? Or you want a question? Question, okay. Councillor Sabra and then Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to David. David, just out of curiosity, where is JWK from contracting? Please.
They are a local firm. The last work they would have done in this area would have been at on Portage, or not Portage, but Radke subdivision. They've done some work in the city of Pembroke in the past, and I think some up on the Garrison. They've certainly done also some work at CNL. So they are a local contractor, and yeah, have been active in the area, just not with the town of Petawawa.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, I'm just wondering, is that the end of Laura Street going to be attached to the Algonquin Trail?
No, this portion of Laura is from Herman Street over to Mary and through to, doesn't all the way go to John, because we did that a little section there, that intersection of John, as part of the John reconstruction. So it doesn't involve the Laura Street as it approaches the Algonquin Trail. That work is all completed under John Street.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Then I need a mover and a seconder to accept the report, please. Councillor Roots, Councillor Moons, call for the vote. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we go to councillor reports. Let's see, Councillor Moons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just report that I attended an airport meeting on April the 15th, and I will let Councillor Roots report on the findings and coming and goings when he goes to his report. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor, I see you. I'm just looking on my screen here. Councillor Carmody is next.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Just one thing to report, and that's a meeting that you and I had with Inspector Neufeld regarding the establishment of detachment police services boards. So there'll be more to come on that at a later date.
Thank you. Councillor Sabran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to say thanks to Kate Bennett and Councillor McLean for all their work on the Town Times. That's included in the Spring Community Guide that is out now and available for people to look at. Also been involved with the Library Hiring Committee in the process of hiring a new CEO. The closing date is tomorrow at 6 p.m. We hope to have the interviews done by this Friday and hopefully have somebody chosen by a week.
That's it? Okay, thank you. Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On April 13th, I attended a virtual Petawawa 25th year anniversary meeting. That was with Councillor Sabrin and yourself, and that was meeting number 2. And again, we had the opportunity to toss some ideas around with each other and brainstorm. And I like the direction it's going. There's still, of course, a lot of work to do, but it's very interesting. And then on the 15th of April with Councillor Mons, I did attend a virtual airport meeting. Information topics on this, we had an update on our investment strategies. We had a financial update and operations update from both staff members at the airport. We did receive 2 engineering quotes for the fuel tank system upgrade. This was a bit of a challenge just to make council aware with this process, as not all engineering firms do airport modification work. So the commission did support a gentleman, Kevin Merkley, with Bay City Engineering. This is a Northern Ontario group, and we've given them the okay to start this process. So I will definitely be keeping council and yourself aware, as we all know, this has been going on for some time, and we want to really move this project forward, as we did set funding aside in the budget of 221. So I will definitely be keeping everyone informed. There will also be an environmental study on the tanks if required. We also had a marketing update from Jennifer Lehman, and there was a military update as well. And the interesting point I just want to report back to council is that the vaccination rollout started today, as a matter of fact, on the garrison for all military personnel who are at work. So a step in the right direction there, as we want to make sure that people in our communities are vaccinated. But there's lots of things happening at the airport, interesting things, of course, and I'll keep everyone abreast of it as needed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions of any of the reports so far? Nothing? Okay. For myself, I had one meeting with CNL and the president and CEO of CNL gave us a bit of an update and overview. They're quite positive of what's going on up there. Large money is being injected back into the CNL. Small modular reactors are a big thing for them, and they're looking forward to moving the yardsticks on that one, as they are with hydrogen, and that technology seems to be on the forefront of some of the things they're doing. Some big initiatives as far as building is concerned on the site. I'm told that, although I never worked there, that anyone who hasn't been there in 2 or 3 years would not recognize the facility if they walked in there, that there's been that much of a change. I've had 4 meetings with the county of Renfrew. One of them was the 2022 Winter Games. I can tell you it's moving along quite well. They've got all 16 chairs in place, and they also have a general manager that is a former Renfrew County person who is currently not in the country, but is coming back to look after these games. Highly qualified, looked after a lot of international events, world championships, et cetera, in Europe, and is coming back to be with the Winter Games and be the general manager for that. I too sat in on the 25th anniversary celebrations, and it's coming along, and hopefully we'll get a bit of an update and a bit of a report by Kelly in the not too distant future as to what some of the things we are thinking about, and some of the things that may be coming together. Nothing etched in stone, nothing is for sure, with the exception of Gary's, I call it Hockey Hall of Fame, but it's not. It's the what do you call it? The Wall of Fame, or the what do you call that event you have?
Sports and entertainment.
Sports and yeah, I sports, and that's will be part of the 25th anniversary. That's the only one that is etched in stone at this point in time. But a lot of good things being planned going forward for that weekend. So stay tuned. Okay, with that, nothing for close and confirming bylaw. I need a motion for second, third reading, please. Councillor Carmody, Deputy Mayor Service, all in favor? It is carried.
Bylaw 140421 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its electronic meeting held on April 19th, 2021. This constitutes first, second, third reading short of bylaw 140421.
Okay, we're at that special motion. Need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Sabrin. Councillor Moons. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, forgetting your name of your